The NFL celebrated its 100th anniversary 2 years ago. Who were the biggest game changers in the history of football? And the number one game changer in the history of pro football was Paul Brown. Paul Brown was born on September 7th, 1908, inside his home on 7 West Elm Street in Norwalk. His father, Lester, worked for the railroad. He was a telegrapher, and he was originally from Holgate, but he met Paul's mother, Ida. She was from Milan in Erie County, and they married young, and they had Paul when they were 21 years old, and they lived right here in Norwalk, Ohio. For Paul's first 9 years of his life, he attended Benedict School. He was here through the 5th grade. Paul lived here till he was 9 years old, and then his father Lester's railroad job took them to Massillon, where he ended up being, a star player at Massillon, and from there ends up going into coaching, and the rest, as they say, is kind of history. 5 state championships at Massillon, then next, a national championship at Ohio State, and then of course the Cleveland Browns. They held a newspaper contest to nickname the team. He was against the idea of it being nicknamed after him, but the people spoke, and they were nicknamed the Cleveland Browns. In the 1946 season, he would win 3 NFL championships while he was coaching the Browns. He had a big falling out with owner Art Modell, 1963. He's let go. The Browns win their last NFL championship to this day in 1964, the first year he's gone. But then 4 years later, Paul Brown helps found the Cincinnati Bengals. And it was, there where the Bengals kind of founded and started. He ends up being the president and coach there as well, and helps turn them into a Super Bowl contender, where the likes of Bill Walsh and Chuck Noll, 2 legendary coaches in their own right, worked and cut their teeth under him.
I remember the Paul Brown story because the year I graduated in 1975, they had a dinner to honor Paul Brown right here in Norwalk, which is now the Norwalk Middle School. And I remember some of the football greats that come here to Norwalk, Ohio to help honor him. Marion Motley, Otto Graham, just to name a few. And I thought, this is a big deal. This guy's something. And to find out that he was born right here in Norwalk and spent his formative years here in Norwalk till he's age 9, and it was a packed house out to the Norwalk Middle School. Fast forward, in May or June of 2021, a few people approached me and said, we really should do something to honor this guy because he's, a legendary. So, and then about a month later at the July 4th parade, I ran into Mark, and he approached me and said, we should try to form a committee. We should do something to honor this guy. He's one of Norwalk's distinguished American citizens. So I said, well, you're right. So a few months later in the fall, we started kicking around the idea, and by January, we formed a committee, and it was a lot of people who had read many books on Paul Brown and were really excited to jump on board and make something happen. So even coming out of the whole COVID pandemic, people come to this room and started putting things together, and it just took off. Shortly thereafter, we met with Mrs. Vick that lives in his childhood home here on Elm Street, and while we were here talking, Lisa Hivner comes in and said, Mike Brown's on the phone. And of course, I thought it was a prank or something, of course, but no, he was on the phone and introduced himself, and just seems like a real down-to-earth guy, and was interested in what we were doing. We explained it to him, and it was followed up by a nice letter from him to keep him abreast of what was going on and our efforts and how things were working out. Part of the committee, we got together and we felt that we needed to have a life-size statue right on Main Street of Paul Brown with all of his accomplishments and achievements listed. So the people that we brought on board come up with the idea of building a stadium-like backdrop in the back, and then selling pavers and plaques that have his life-size statue on a granite block right on Main Street, so people could come and park, and behind us is Sewer Family Park, which is a beautiful little park here on Main Street, and have this right on Main Street facing Main with the design of a stadium behind him that will probably say Paul Brown Stadium on this granite stadium behind, and then people could come here and read all of his accomplishments on the plaques going around his actual statue.
We have till February 28th. That is kind of our last cutoff where you can order a brick paver, and those are as little as $100. You could do a bigger one for $250, but you can, there's a certain number of characters on it, but you can, put your name, a loved one's name, or just some type of your maybe fandom for the Browns or Bengals. So we're selling brick pavers, $100 or $250 through February 28th. This will be the first statue ever in the 200+ year history of the city of Norwalk.
He is one of Norwalk's heroes. It'll make Norwalk a destination place, and people can come here and see the statue, see the story of Paul Brown, and it'll be in a beautiful part of downtown Norwalk, and it will honor somebody that should have been done years ago.